Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week Crypto Night, our one night special where we're going to be talking everything crypto. We'll talk everything from the halving to Bitcoin to how you can get it into your portfolio. We're going to talk about what's next for crypto, for Bitcoin, basically the cycles. We got a whole bunch. Now we got a few guests on. Right now we're going to start with making sure my mic is on. We're going to start with Brandon. Brandon is from Green Candle Investments. I have put a link to his YouTube channel in the extra information on here. So I highly recommend you check it out. I've been over there. He's got fantastic content. So let's start off very quickly with just some introductions. Brandon, how the heck are you? Tell us about yourself, your channel,
Yeah,
everything.
thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. Yeah, I'm Brandon. I'm from Green Candle. I got a couple podcasts, State of Bitcoin and Macro Insights, and I write a little newsletter as well every now and then. But mostly kind of focus on like overall macro markets. I got everything from like real estate, stock market, you name it, and then Bitcoin related stuff as well. So I try to hit it all and yeah, so to try to make it a little fun as well. So
Okay, so you're definitely more well diversified than just crypto, for example.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I like to focus kind of on, I guess, the greater macro picture because I think at the end of the day, everything's a little connected, right? I mean, like if you kind of look at Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto markets, they're all kind of correlated with like tech stocks still at this point. There's been kind of I guess the narrative that Bitcoin's going to decouple at some point in time. We don't really know when that is, but as it stands right now, everything's still kind of correlated. And it's, relative to interest rate environment, the overall macro economy, a lot of stuff intertwined here. And I think, at the end of the day, I try to take it all in so I can get a greater picture on, what all is going on.
Absolutely. Now you're based out of Tampa, is that right?
Yes, I am. Yep. Tampa, Florida.
Awesome. Awesome. I guess one question I have right off the bat, do you invest in any Canadian stocks by any chance?
I do not. I keep an eye on it a little bit. I mean, of course, I think we met through Dividend Dave. So I mean, I've been on
Mhm.
his show. He's talks a lot about a lot of the Canadian stocks. I'm actually going to be in Canada in Montreal in mid-May. I'm going to the Canadian
Nice.
Bitcoin conference up there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, I've been a couple times. Great place, but no, I mean, I usually kind of just stick to the U.S. equity markets and I guess, Bitcoin and a little bit of real estate as well. I'm actually sitting in a rental property of mine right now as well. So
Okay, okay, perfect. I guess one other question I have right off the top. We had a US CPI drop today.
yes, we
What
did.
are your interpretations of that on the market in general, as well as on Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I mean the CPI is the biggest lie, is a kind of like a little rhyme I like to say, because it's a very manipulated statistic. They essentially gather a basket of goods and then look at the inflation from across the board year over year. But at this point, they're having trouble kind of hiding that inflation is still running rampant. So we're still at 3.6% year over year. Core CPI rose to 3.8. So in my opinion, Powell's going to keep that interest rates very high, for as long as he can. I kind of made some predictions at the beginning of the year that I think he's going to cut in Q4 because inflation, the traditional equities markets, they like to call for an interest rate cut, and they like to say that, inflation is almost over. I don't
Mhm.
necessarily agree. If you kind of go to, I guess I like to call it Main Street, the average person like walking around getting gas, grocery bills, all those kind of things. Everything is still kind of running very high. But what does that mean for Bitcoin, right? So I think it's going to be the perfect cocktail for all this to take off, right? I mean, we got the halving coming up here in a little over a week, and then we had the Bitcoin spot ETFs, 11 of them in the U.S. just kind of
Mhm.
pop up earlier this year, and then all that being said, usually Bitcoin kind of runs a little bit after the halving, and then that's when I think the interest rates will cut down as well. And usually when interest rates cut, people kind of flock to more of the they like to call them risk on assets, and Bitcoin's being one of them. So I think it's a perfect cocktail. I made a prediction at the beginning of the year that I think Bitcoin is going to hit at least 100K. Now I feel like that's maybe undershooting it a little bit. Of course, it's not financial advice. I mean, I'm just
Mhm.
making a prediction here, but yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a recipe for good things ahead for Bitcoin, to say the very least.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's definitely very cool. Um, do you subscribe to Plan B stock to flow model at all, or?
I did at one point in time. He was actually kind of nailing it on the head for a little bit. I think, with the thing with models is that all models are useful, but none of them are correct, right? Or
Mhm.
no, something like that. I think like Plan B has even come out and said it, where his model is kind of looking at it. But I mean, if you look at a lot of other factors too from the last cycle, um, we had FTX, we had Celsius, we had a lot of companies kind of issuing paper Bitcoin, it seemed like, right? So they weren't necessarily actually buying the actual Bitcoin, getting it confirmed on the blockchain and everything like that. And so, with that being said, maybe the price was suppressed a little bit during the last cycle. And so I think, the SEC's regulations are kind of coming down a little bit harder on these exchanges.
Mhm.
And, we do have the ETFs now, which, are SEC regulated as well. And so that'll make it a little bit more difficult to purchase paper Bitcoin, in my opinion. Granted, I'm sure there will be still some bad players in this bull run here, so everybody should be very cautious. But I do think that the price was suppressed a little bit in the last cycle, and that could lead to bigger things and bigger jumps this one.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. We got our first question here. Let's throw this up. So, after the Bitcoin halving, how long will the bull market last? Now,
Yeah,
I'm thinking, I'll give you my take first.
yeah, let's do it.
I'm thinking we've at least got till the end of the year. Bitcoin is kind of funny. Sometimes, as soon as you think the market's going to go forever, that's when it usually falls. So I'm saying you're probably safe till the end of the year. I'm thinking it probably might have a major correction. I would say first quarter of 2025. That would be my take. What do you think?
Yeah, so if you kind of look at every cycle, right? This is an interesting one already off the bat, because you could argue we're already in a bull market because we hit the all-time high before the halving. So this is the first time that this has
Mhm.
really happened. And generally speaking, I think that the average was after it hit the all-time high, or repassed the previous all-time high. Usually the price doubled in less than a month. We haven't gotten that yet, and so I mean, maybe I'm being optimistic here, but I think we're going to see a big run up this year, but later on in the year. Usually, the halving is not some sort of big event where you see a major spike going into it. It's usually kind of more of a delayed reaction, right? I mean, these
Mhm.
miners kind of continually adjust over time, kind of adjust to the new market, and not being able to produce as much Bitcoin, every single day. And so you usually don't see the all-time highs till maybe later in the year, Q3, Q4 time. But that's when I think they're going to cut interest rates. So I think
Mhm.
that, from now, I guess what we'll see around April 20th is the prediction here for the halving.
Right.
I
Yeah,
wouldn't be
exactly.
surprised if we, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see, a bull market through that this time next year. And then kind of see a maybe a correction starting around summertime of next year. So I think like this cycle is going to be a little bit more delayed, and then over time we'll kind of get away from maybe that full on big giant jump in cycle in the 4 year cycles, and we'll
Mhm.
reach a super cycle, but we're not really there quite yet. But so I think like this one will be a little bit longer drawn out, and they'll kind of continue to get that way where over time it's just the all-time high and the halving is shows less and less meaning. Everybody just kind of hypes up for it because at the end of the day still there's only 10%, less than 10% of coins left to be mined. So 10% of the coins left to be mined is not going to drive the entire market. I think it's more of like the user behavior, right? The
Mhm.
hodler
Yeah.
mentality. So as long as those hodlers still continue to hold, I think the cycles are going to get longer and longer, and we're going to see bigger and bigger spikes.
Nice, nice. One thing I was sort of thinking about with all of these new ETFs, these spot ETFs, do you feel that it's perhaps kind of changed the normal pattern that we're used to seeing with the price of Bitcoin?
Yeah, I mean, there's just like an insane flux of money going into Bitcoin where it's not sustainable. So, I mean, if the buying has continues at this pace, there would be no Bitcoin left on exchanges by like maybe late November, early December at this point. Because on one day, one
Mhm.
Wednesday, I think in March, we saw the BlackRock ETF buy 10,000 Bitcoin alone, which was
Oh, wow.
a few $1 billion. It was when we kind of saw that initial spike of I think it got from like around 60 to 70,000. I want to say it was on the 21st of March. And so, with BlackRock and a lot of these ETFs just buying at an insane rate, right? I mean, 900 Bitcoin are produced a day, and
Mhm.
in a week and a half, that's going to be cut down to 450. So, I like the way that this is going. There's only one way it's going to go, right? It's up. It's simple supply and demand. People are going to try to overcomplicate it, but like I said, at the end of the day, it's still just kind of depends on the hodler's mentality. Like, are people going to are we going to see, maybe a global recession, and then Bitcoiners need to at that point sell some of their Bitcoin to get fiat in order to pay some bills or something like that. I mean, you just can't really like predict a lot of those things, but I
Mhm.
think, BlackRock and a lot of these ETF players now are going to have a lot more power on that price because they're scooping up just so much of it. So
Oh, perfect.
it's going to cause a lot more volatility because we have major player
Mhm.
coming in and big whales now kind of shifting it instead of just kind of the collective, I guess, plebs just kind of buying up. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll see a lot of volatility on this, but volatility is not necessarily a bad thing, right? I mean, they always say it's a
Yeah,
feature,
right,
not a bad.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna add one more person. We got Tim Perry. He is here. He's made it back from Whistler. Hello, Tim. How are you?
What's going on? Yeah, no, I'm still in Whistler. I got sunburn. It was
Holy cow!
you
Absolutely.
could actually see the mask burn.
Wow. Like, how is the snowpack up there this time of year?
Right now, actually, it's the best. I haven't been here a lot, but it's the best I've seen it. When we came up, it was snowing, and tomorrow, I guess there was a bunch of people saying it could be about 7 inches. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, so
Wow.
it's actually been pretty good.
Well,
Humbling,
that's
that's for
good.
sure.
What have you been up to in the last? It's been about at least a year, I think, since we've seen you.
Yeah, I mean, working obviously, but then yeah, I've been playing crypto a lot. I don't know where Tim is, but obviously I've been talking to him a lot
He's right
too.
next to
So.
you.
Oh, there he is.
All right, everybody's here. Yay. This is good. Hello, Mr. Danter.
What do you say? What do you know?
What was that?
Hey, what do you know?
I know, I know. So I think you guys have probably not met Brandon. Brandon is from Green Candle Investments out of
How's it going, guys?
Tampa.
How you doing?
Yeah. All right. All right. Everybody is here now. I got a question here. Actually, Sammer has a question. He wants to know if we're looking at an Ethereum spot ETF in the US anytime soon. We'll start with Brandon, and then we'll go to Tim, and then Tim. Brandon, what do you think?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I honestly, I don't really think we'll see a Bitcoin or an Ethereum spot ETF anytime soon. I think that they're kind of testing their waters with this Bitcoin one. 11 of them actually. So, I think it'll be kind of a slower, I guess, process if they get another ETF of any other crypto token. And yeah, I mean, I think that they're still kind of looking at Ethereum as a security. So I don't really see them getting maybe a spot ETF. The spot ETFs are usually more for like a commodity or something along those lines. So obviously, like, gold or something like that. So I think that I don't think that there's going to be anything that really has or any like traditional finance products that involves crypto at any time soon. I think we saw like the FTX debacle and a lot of those things, and it has a lot of people turned off the crypto markets in general. So traditional finance is still kind of coming around, and I think the Bitcoin ETFs are going to be here for a while, and it's Bitcoin's the Wall Street's favorite asset. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to lobby for something along those lines, but I think that it's going to be Bitcoin and Bitcoin only at this point.
Perfect. What do you think, Tim P?
Yeah, I think Brandon's probably right. Just judging by the way alts are getting like hammered by Bitcoin, like it's kind of telling, because when there was rumors of like, oh, the ETH ETF might pass, you saw like ETH kind of start making its way, and any ETH coins, like meme coins, ETH on ETH were going nuts. But I don't know. I just got this bad feeling that it's just going to be a Bitcoin dominated like bull market now. I was pretty bullish about 3 months ago, as Tim would know, but last 2 months, just the action's been kind of bizarre. And that's why I joked with like the cabal leaders, because there's a joke in crypto now that like it's a cabal coin, because there's so much money, especially with meme coins now, where a meme coin comes in and within 8 hours it's at like $50 million market caps. And you see the liquidity they're starting out. It feels like the venture capitalists and stuff are just absolutely stringing everybody along right now. And I just don't know if there's enough new money, to be honest, new money in the market right now to sustain, because if an ETH ETF passes, I'd like to think we'd get an alt season, but I don't think we're going to get that.
Okay. What do you think, Tim, Danter?
Well, I think Tim has a good point. I think that, the meme coins, I mean, when the meme coins go up, that the catalytic converters are safe on your car. They've got to make money. So they're not under your car. They're making meme coins. But I don't think that the market has an appetite for Ethereum right now, just for the mere fact that Bitcoin is sort of broken through the barrier and has got such an adoption rate or such an interest, and B, because it's getting challenged big time by Solana. So, I mean, it might come there, it might not, but I think the money is all on Bitcoin right now. And I think, we were sort of ahead of our time in Canada with Grayscale. So, we'll see.
Yeah, we have a Bitcoin. We do have an Ethereum spot ETF up here, which is crazy. But we also had our Bitcoin spot ETF for, gosh, it's been more than a year now as well. So we're way ahead of the bar on that. All right, we got Paul. Paul wants to know. So he says the meme coins. When will some of the people be left holding worthless coins? Right now, it seems like a meme coin narrative. What do you think, Brandon? We'll start with you.
Yeah, so I tend to stay away from the meme coins. I think a lot of these, crypto tokens, meme coins, whatever you want to call them, they all have marketing departments, right? It's all kind of like a fad. People kind of jump in and, maybe you could catch fire, maybe not. You're definitely prone to get rug pulled. So I think it really depends on, I guess, the coin and whatnot, but everything seems to traditionally follow Bitcoin. So, you'll kind of see bigger swings in the altcoins comparatively to Bitcoin. So, I personally think that, we're going to see a big run up in Bitcoin, and that's the main thing I kind of focus on. So I think, you'll probably see a lot of alts like kind of follow path and follow suit. I'm sure the meme coins will do that as well. But I think, a lot of the meme coins, it's a dangerous game, man. It's a dangerous game. Like, you get Elon to tweet about Dogecoin and it shoots up like crazy. But if you look at Bitcoin over a 3-month period, there's only been there's only been one altcoin that's beat Bitcoin over a 3-month period more than 2 times, and that's been Dogecoin. And that was once because Elon tweeted about it, and once because the initial run up. So generally speaking, you can kind of catch fire in a bottle with maybe a meme coin that beats Bitcoin out for 3 months. But it's very unlikely that you're going to find something that beats it out for 3 months multiple times. So I would raise some caution when you're kind of going through with something like that. And yeah, I mean, personally, I try to stay away from those just simply because, the rug pull can be it can be very rough.
Absolutely. What do you think, Tim P?
Uh, I honestly, I made my most gains with meme coins, so it's a tough call. I've actually been burned more in the last 2 months with AI. And then the question is, what is a meme coin now? Because the AI coin that I was in was supposed to have all these, business deals and stuff like that. And then they all got caught lying. And then obviously everyone jumped ship and the team's selling and the venture capitalists are selling and stuff like that. So it's a rug pull, whether you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. My biggest gains this past few months was a coin called Bonk, which was a meme coin on Solana, and it was insane. And the truth is, if I just stayed in that, I probably wouldn't even need to be here. I'd be retired. So I don't know. It's tough. Meme coins, though, at the same time now, anyone could create a meme coin. I've actually created 3 meme coins already. Learned a hard lesson, though, on the cabal that runs. I could get into because it's all on Solana that I've been basically messing around with. But there is a group of people. I am now starting, Tim knows this, I've started working with I'm actually finally connected with some developers on the other end. And they've absolutely schooled me to the fact that if you're just a normal person right now in crypto, you're a sitting duck. It really blew my mind as to how many of these influencers are tied in with developers, how many of even people who are developing on the Solana Foundation are trying to hold back other developers from getting their work on there. If you launch a meme coin by yourself, you'll get eaten up by bots, and it's basically a bot eat, bot gain now, even in terms of normal coins between arbitrage bots, which will buy as, if you're on a DEX now and you trade, you're getting most likely botted out. They'll buy within that thing and then drop it right after. So obviously we were using bots like the Crypto Night crew, Kyle, Rohit, that I've been running with, Journey. We've been using BonkBot, but even BonkBot now is lagging. I don't know if anyone knows, but Solana's been basically done for a week. Transactions failing constantly. I just gave up one day. I couldn't even sell my coin. So there's a lot of issues there. But this cabal thing, just finding out, there's a group that the developer was showing me, and you can see the wallets, because me and Journey have been following wallets now to see how they move. And obviously a lot of these bots are tipping out the validators and stuff on Solana. But you can see that there's a farming of, they probably put out 400 meme coins a day, and then they rug you within 10 minutes. So obviously, like Brandon said, yeah, they're brutal. But my number one rule is if you're going to get a meme coin, make sure it's established and multi-million-dollar market cap. But at the same time, then that's still a high market cap for a meme. And all memes have a shelf life. But I'm starting to learn that all coins have a shelf life, because Aave, stuff that I'm really high on, they haven't moved this whole year. Root that I liked, but Root's now been eclipsed by Rocket Swap, so it's irrelevant. But Root hasn't really moved. Kitty Inu's down and just keeps going down. So it's I don't know. It's really, I've grown salty on crypto in a sense, but I've realized that you can still make a lot of money. But the only way I feel like I'm going to try to make my money now is by working from the inside, not scamming, but just I'm testing out bots and stuff like that have, higher transaction per seconds to snipe in stuff. And yes, that can be shady at means. And my brother's a police officer. He's actually out the front door, so he knows, and he doesn't think it's that bad. But yeah, no, I don't know. I've really gone to see a lot on the inside. You can't create your own coin now, because if you don't have influencers who are going to ask you, and Kyle, I wish Kyle was here. I told him to come on, or at least through the chat. Kyle was my marketing guy, and he would go talk to some of these influencers on Twitter. And they'd be asking, some of them were asking for $15,000 to tweet out. Yeah. And you can't even guarantee that they're going to hold up their end of the bargain, especially when I know, I think Tim knows this. I worked on a coin in 2020 as a front lead, and basically all the influencers got an allocation with their coins. And then the minute the coin went, it did do very well at first. They all dumped, and then they were gone. They made their money. They didn't care. So I'm just really growing very cautious on investing in anything else. And therefore, so me and a group of other developers and guys who have a lot more skills than I do on any of that stuff. But I like to think I have a creative side to me. So we're working on a couple coins. We're just waiting for the timing. Solana, obviously, to get back so transactions work properly. But I don't know. I just feel like you can't, as Brandon was saying, even hodling anything right now. I mean, you're holding Aave, which is it's a juggernaut of a coin, but it hasn't done anything. So it's like if you're not taking profits anymore, and I'm kicking myself because Tim knows this, but like 3 months ago, I would have been flying if I just took profits,
Oh, wow.
and then bought back in or something.
Absolutely. Okay, Tim, what happened to that meme coin that you had? That what was it, the race car one or the Mario Kart type one? A couple
Me?
years ago?
That was Kitty.
Kitty, yeah, there we go. Kitty.
Oh,
E.
don't talk about Kitty. Listen. The sharks are circling, right? The sharks, they migrated away. They went to Hawaii. Now they're back in the Atlantic and Pacific up around us. And when Bitcoin rises, all boats rise, right? Well, the sharks are circling now with the meme coins. I had at the beginning 4 years ago, 3 years ago, we were right into this, buy that, and this and that. I kind of set and forget because I got to that point with crypto that my racehorses were Bitcoin, ETH, and XRP. And I set and forget, right? I've taken a bath on everything except Bitcoin and ETH, depending on the day. Logged into my MetaMask for the first time in a long time. And I see Satama. It's like, I see Kitty. It's like, I can't access them. Because I didn't take the advice, nor did I act on something that Ken told me to do. So I'm SOL.
What do you mean? What happened?
I can't access them. I was supposed to. Ken told me to take my Sasama if I had it and switch it to a different coin months ago.
Oh, Kitty did the same thing.
I'll get to it. So therefore, bad meme coins, I'm not doing.
But at the same time, sorry, Tim, other coins have done like a fork or something like that, where if you didn't get, the memo, your coin would be dead. Obviously, ETH and stuff, you're safe, but there are like top 100 coins that have had to fork or migrate.
Well, I got schooled on two coins, and it wasn't a lot of money, but I still got schooled. And yeah, the boss isn't around, so I don't have to worry about. Hopefully she doesn't watch. Well, hopefully she watches it, but maybe she won't. But I'm safe. But yeah, no, it's too much with the amount of it's all hands on deck. People know that there's money to be made, and it's get in, get out, and they're taking your money. They might as well, send you a text and you click on the link, and then all of a sudden your bank information's got clicked on, or your, all that. It's, if you don't know, if the people who are watching, and they've been around long enough to know that if you don't know what you're doing, stay out of it.
Oh yeah, don't. And with Solana, with Solana especially now, you're interacting with so many different programs. Like airdrops were a big thing, and everything seems to. I hate saying this about humans, but this is what I'm learning about crypto too. Is like you learn that there's a cabal within all these coins, or Ethereum probably has a cabal, all this, and it's like we literally got out of the fiat system to get into crypto to escape that kind of thing. And then human greed and stuff, everyone forms their little groups, doesn't let anybody else in, and they get their little niches, and they pump coins and dump them on you. So I've just kind of been, it's like make my money now as morally as I can with creating coins, and then I'm out. I'm done.
Fun. All right, we got another question here. Sammer wants to know about when Bitcoin might be used as collateral. What do you think? We'll start with you, Brandon.
Yeah, I think in some cases it can be. I mean, I know some people kind of working on some unique products here pretty soon that I know one guy, I'm trying to think of the product exactly, but what it's called. I'll look for it maybe when somebody else is talking, but they're coming up with a product where you could essentially use Bitcoin as collateral for mortgages. So that might be something that's going to be in the works. And I know that they're going to be putting it out later this year. Not to be a plug or a shill or anything, but my podcast interview with CJ Constantinos, he is working on a project with that. And so I'm going to look at his stuff again and see if I can remember the name. But, I think At this point, there's some places that are already accepting it. I think Ledin is one in Canada already that allows you to do that. So there's a lot of products. Unchained in the US lets you do that sometimes. They've kind of slowed down that product. So I mean, there are places that definitely let you use it as collateral to get loans. I would just raise some caution with that. You know, you gotta, don't over leverage yourself to, buy loan out your Bitcoin to buy more Bitcoin or buy some altcoins or something like that. That could be definitely a dangerous game to kind of get into. But I think, these products are already available in a lot of places. So you can use Bitcoin as collateral if you'd like. And just like I said, though, I'd kind of raise some caution to do that because, you already can get a lot of yield. But if you don't want to sell and you want to, get some, I don't know, maybe it's a USDT or something like that, there's definitely products available for you right now.
Cool. Tim Danter, didn't you have Ledin on your channel once?
I did. I had them on twice, I believe. I think I don't know if the Bitcoiners have had them on more frequently, but there and to Brandon's point, there's definitely you got to watch. You've got to know what Bitcoin is doing. You've got to know the ups and downs of Bitcoin if you're going to start to leverage what you've worked hard to accumulate in Bitcoin, so you don't sacrifice that. Because if they call it in and they want their money, you could lose. I mean, it's very lucrative, but it's good. And Brandon is correct that if we will occasionally watch different people pump or crypto case here or whatever the case is, just to get up to speed. And it is out there and it is coming. And I think it'll become more sort of in the market once Bitcoin sort of gets over certain levels. And it becomes something substantial where they know that when it comes down to a low that they're not going to lose a whole whack. You know what I mean? So it'll be, and it's only for the smart at heart. Like don't go in and think this is an easy game. It's not. It's you got to know your stuff when you're leveraging your hard-earned Bitcoin. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally, Tim Perry, what do you think?
Honestly, I don't really have a good opinion on this part because I've just been deep in the bowels of the meme coins and the crap coins. So Brandon did make a lot of sense. Tim made a lot of sense. So there's nothing more I can really add to that.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Let's see here. And just trying to see here what I have for questions. I just wanted to know one thing. Tim, with Tim Danter, you have been doing your DCAing all through the crypto bear market. How has, let's have an update on that. How's that done?
Wonderful. Love it. I mean, I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. And it was at minimum a $5 a day. And I got up to 2 $5 a days. And then at some point I'd get up to 3 $5 a days DCAs. But again, you kind of have to do a bit of research to see, the prime times in markets. Like, is China asleep, or is this market asleep, or look at the sort of the averages and stuff. And then that's when problem is you have to wake up at that point in time if you're doing it through ShakePay to do it. You're up at like 3 o'clock in the morning. Oh my God, like, is this worth it? And it's like, yes, it's worth it. I've made 1.15 Bitcoin so far on DCA.
Wow, that's absolutely insane.
It's $5 a day, so
you don't have to share this, but what is your adjusted cost base at? I'm just curious.
No clue.
Okay, fair enough. I just know that you bought a lot of it when it was really, really low. So
yep,
I'm thinking you have a really, really impressive profit sitting there, which is nice. All right, another question I have, and we'll get everybody's opinion on this, is when it comes to Bitcoin, what are you holding? Are you holding coins? Are you using the ETFs? Are you using it to get exposure in your TFSA or 401k for Brandon's case? So how exactly are you utilizing Bitcoin? What's your kind of game strategy at this point? we'll start with Brandon, then we'll go to Tim Perry, Tim Danter, and then I'll throw in mine at the end of that. Brandon.
Yeah, for sure. So I never really recommend the Bitcoin spot ETFs because I think, the benefit of having Bitcoin is that you can pull it off an exchange, you can hold your own keys, you can be your own bank. Kind of you saw a lot of the issues that happened when holding Bitcoin on exchanges, just a few years ago. So, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of these products that are going to try to give you back yield here in this bull cycle. I would be very, very cautious and very, very wary because you don't really know where that yield is coming from. So, I always recommend what Tim is doing, right? Just DCA it. And then once you have a certain amount of Bitcoin, a certain amount of sats that you want to pull off that you feel comfortable, just add that to, a cold storage wallet and just hide it away forever, because Bitcoin's the greatest savings technology there is. And I think that's what, everybody should try to be doing it or try to be using it for. I do have some in a Roth IRA, which is, I think, kind of similar to the TSF or TSA or something like that, the account that you guys have.
Mm-hmm.
But I have it with, it's a company called Choice by Kingdom Trust. And they're partnered with Unchained, and I can actually access those keys, so I can see if, for some reason they're lending out my Bitcoin or anything like that. I can all verify that. So, if you don't have that access or some product like that in Canada, the ETF is definitely, a product that, you guys have had Canadian ETFs now for over a year. So, that's something that you could definitely put in a retirement account or MicroStrategy even as well, right? MicroStrategy almost acts like a spot ETF at this point. It's actually almost a leverage play on Bitcoin the way it looks at it. And same with like a lot of the Bitcoin miners. So, if you believe in Bitcoin as the asset, I would, definitely try to get some exposure and some tax advantage accounts, because, the tax man is always going to come knocking. So, any way you could try to avoid that guy, the big bad wolf come knocking down your door, I definitely recommend exploring that. So, but for me, what I do mostly is just, DCA, kind of like what Tim said, and put it in cold storage.
Awesome. Tim Perry.
Yeah, my game plan now is I'm not going to even touch any coins that I'm not building with. So I'm going to do that and then make the money. If I do make the money, I'm going to just put it into Bitcoin. I literally trust zero coins now long term other than Bitcoin.
Nice.
And that's it. It's basic and simple.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
And Mr. Danter.
What was the question?
Just your overall Bitcoin strategy, what you're doing, whether you're using some of the ETFs.
We
whether
have
you're just
we were into GBTC when it first came out. Then we moved things over to a financial planner, and it's not that the banks don't recognize it, it's the banks can't use it right now. They'd see it. These investment people see it. But that Nancy and I, our vision has always been and always will be, our racehorse is Bitcoin. So we may have changed our strategy since we were last on air, because what we're doing now is we want to give leave each child at least just one Bitcoin. So it's a long-term play for us, because I don't think it's going to have any effect on us, but I think it's going to have everything to do with how my kids, so mine's in cold storage.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. I'm not worried about anything, and it's not a piece of paper that's owing to me. It's in a cold storage, and
you guys did have some exposure before in BTCY. Do you guys still use that, or?
No, got out of everything. We got out of everything, and we just directed all of that money into DCAing, and because it just made so much sense. It's just I would rather have. I compare it to gold. I would rather have gold coins than a stock, because a stock is a piece of paper. Gold coins are fit. I know Bitcoin is not. I understand it's not a physical thing, but it's as close as a physical thing in crypto as you're going to get. And it's just that's our play. So that's our racehorse. That everyone knows that has followed us from day one, and we haven't changed. We haven't changed our direction at all.
Fair enough. Now my strategy is totally different. I swing trade, not so much Bitcoin directly, but I swing trade BTCC.B. So that's a spot Canada Bitcoin that is ETF that is pegged to the US dollar because I don't want to have to deal with the conversions. So I swing that thing like crazy. I basically, and though I do it kind of the sort of the opposite way most people will actually swing trade. So how I do it is I do it by the number of shares. So let's say, for example, I was playing 1,000 shares. I'll buy the 1,000 shares low. I'll sell it again high. I don't take any profit in there, but when it falls, when I rebuy back in, whatever the price difference is there, that's where I take my profit. So I'm basically just playing to maintain the same number of coins. And as I'm playing it move all of the volatility up and down, I'm peeling cash off of it. And then I put that into other investments and things like that. So that's kind of my kind of big Bitcoin strategy. And Bitcoin, it's just one of these things that I'll be one of the people that when Bitcoin loses the volatility that it has right now, I won't be a happy camper because right now it's just so easy to swing, and it's fairly predictable. So that's kind of the way I've been handling it. Tim, P.
Question. I just want to know where you're at because you used to love DOT and stuff. Like, where are you at with your altcoin picks?
I'm still very bullish on DOT. Like I love the whole concept of DOT sort of acting like sort of like a TCP IP between different coins, just by the way that the bridges on that coin work. So I do love it. I'm also really, really liking Solana as well. So I think both of those are kind of cool. Like if we ever get a Solana spot ETF up here in Canada, because where we tend to be a little bit looser with our spot ETFs, I'll definitely invest into that.
Yeah, there was it was kind of like Solana obviously up here, but then you had like Injective was another one that made a lot of gains. Avalanche has made a lot of gains. Say, but DOT, I thought, because I was just curious if you've taken a look into Base. Because Base seems like it's kind of hot.
I haven't looked too much into it, but part of it is I spend so much of my time in stocks. So, because, well, I mean, the channel itself, like I would say it's 95% stocks and maybe 5% crypto. So I don't get an opportunity to do this as much as I used to, which is sad in a way. I do miss, like, those of you who don't know about this, there used to be Tim Danter used to have a channel, Crypto Night in Canada. And there'd be some of us who would meet every Wednesday night. That's one of the reasons I chose Wednesday night, was sort of to pay homage to that old channel. And I always thought that was just fantastic. It used to be one of my favorite nights of the week because, we just get there, we would just shoot the poop, and it was great. It was all kinds of different guests. We met a lot of great people. That's where, for example, Tim Perry. That's how I met Tim Perry. Of course, Tim Danter, Nancy Danter, a whole bunch of others. So it's been fantastic that way. So and also the friggin' Oracle, who is now just friggin', who happens to be in the audience. And here's his strategy, by the way, in case any of you were kind of curious. So bingo, degen and take profits to BTC during the next bear market. Yeah, so one BTC and forget it. That's kind of cool. Cool. And he also, I don't know, BTC USA will use BTC for gold standard in the future. What do you guys think of this? Do you think this is a possible? I've never even thought of this personally. Brandon, you're the American.
Yeah, I guess.
Could this even be a possibility?
Yeah, I guess I'm the token American here. Well, I mean, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has put this on the platform already. He kind of said that he wants to back the dollar by hard assets. He mentioned Bitcoin in there, and he also said, real estate and gold. To me personally, I just don't see how that's logistically possible. The government right now in the U.S. has a spending problem, and they don't have an influx problem. They bring in more and more tax dollars every single year, and they just print more and more money. So at the end of the day, like, why back it? Because people, the globe still runs on the U.S. dollar, right? I mean, even though we're a bunch of crypto people here, right? I mean, we all kind of see the writing on the wall. there's still a lot of delusion out there, man. Like people still think that, the dollar's perfectly fine. Like, at the end of the day, there's going to be a lot of countries, whether it's BRICS nations, a lot of countries trying to deal in outside currencies, but whatever they deal in, whatever currency they deal in, they all revert back to the dollar at the end of the day. So the dollar still remains king. And I think, as long as the US doesn't piss off too many people, they'll continue to reign king in that sense. And so, as they'll let the delusion and clown world kind of live on, like they'll kind of let it all continue here. So to be honest, the 4-year cycle or the 4-year, presidential period or whatever, even if Robert F. Kennedy would be elected, right? He's an independent. So the chance of him actually getting elected is way, way far out. And, even further from that, like he'll have 4 years. So he'll have to go through, majority House and Congress and all these other branches of government to try to get this thing passed. And the monetary policy is supposed to be politically agnostic. We've kind of seen with Powell and Yellen the past couple cycles that it's not necessarily right. We had Trump kind of coming in and giving a nudge to keep interest rates low in 2019, right before COVID, when Powell tried to raise them. And then now we have Biden kind of coming out today and saying like, hey, the interest rate cut might need to be delayed towards the end of the year. So, there's definitely always going to be political pressures when it comes to the monetary policy, but it's supposed to be politically agnostic. And so, I don't really foresee a USA Bitcoin or getting on like a Bitcoin standard. And to be honest, like USA has the most to lose with that, right? Because they lose a lot of power. So what we'll see is a lot of El Salvador is popping up, like a lot of smaller countries that are on the dollar and have really nothing to lose. I think, I'm really bullish on Latin America kind of coming up and getting on a Bitcoin standard. I'm sure Argentina is pretty primed to do that here next. And then a lot of African countries as well, because, they've got a lot of room to grow. So I think at the end of the day, it's not necessarily going to happen in the US. And, I still think the dollar's got some life in it. I don't really foresee the dollar failing for the next 10 to 15, maybe even 20 years. But there's definitely some chinks in the USA armor here being shown for sure.
All right, you mentioned both Biden and Trump. You got an election coming up. Which candidate is going to be better for Bitcoin in your opinion?
Well, Trump, I think, will be better for the economy, which would be better for Bitcoin. Trump, the economy under Trump was pretty. Nobody can really argue, no matter what side of the coin you're on. The economy under Trump was very good, right? But if no matter what side you're on, Trump printed money and Biden printed money too. So they both probably made a little bit wrong moves, but Biden kind of doubled down on it. And I don't think Biden's policies have been anything to write home about. The one thing that does worry me about Trump is he's already kind of come out and said he wants like a 0% interest rate environment, which I think that kind of becomes the Wild West there. We'll have a lot of companies like FTX or, companies that come out of nowhere. Like FTX was non-existent in 2017. And then by 2020, it was a multi-billion-dollar company valuation. Like, that just does not happen, like a lot of these things, like it was just basically pure market delusion. And so, I'm wary with a lot of, AI companies kind of popping up, right? Because that I think could be the next kind of boom where, it was something like the .com boom. Maybe this is an AI boom. And if we get to a 0 interest rate environment, dumb ideas can live on for a lot longer, right? So, it'll be interesting to see, but I think overall, like Trump would be a lot better for the economy and for Bitcoin in general. And he's already kind of come out and like I know a lot of Bitcoiners are maybe anti-Trump because he's like, I don't want to get a lot of people are transacting in Bitcoin, but I still like the dollar. To me, as an American, I want the president to kind of want the currency to remain strong because, Bitcoin basically prospers because the current policy is failing. And I don't think Bitcoin is to the point yet where we could get 7 billion people to transact on it yet, right? The Lightning Network's still very early. We still need a lot of development to be going on, and you know, a lot of other things to happen in order to get on a full Bitcoin standard globally. And so the longer that we can push that out, the more efficient everything will be, and the better, I think, for everybody in the long run. And if we could have a slow transition from the US dollar to Bitcoin, I think that would be just better for everybody involved. So especially for those, I know we've probably all have normie friends who've never heard of Bitcoin or crypto or think that it's too complicated. So I think just the slower, longer transition, the better. So long-winded answer to kind of say I think Trump would be better, and yeah, that's kind of where I'm going to stick my flag in, I think, on this this go around.
Awesome. All right. What do you think of Theta there, Tim Perry?
Theta's, yeah, I can't say enough good things, and it's been doing all right still. Yeah, I know that's always been Ken's thing, and another coin too. It's actually kind of AI, but Neil was always high on his AEOS has been going nuts. Now, mind you, it dropped to a penny from I think $2 or $3 when we used to talk about it, but now it's back up to like $2. It would have been a 200x in about 3 months. So. But a fun fact too, though, about FTX and SBF is they were the second biggest donor to the Democrat Party. So there was some shenanigans going on with FTX and the Democrats.
Yeah, always follow the money, man. Always.
Yeah.
There's always.
They don't know that us. They don't know us that as crypto folks can literally follow some of those wallets in and out of Ukraine right back into the States. Exactly. Good old money laundering.
Yeah, I mean that's like, you know, I mean, as much as like the FUD is out there, right? That Bitcoin's for criminals or everything like that. At the end of the day, it's a digital blockchain, right? So every transaction is there and lives on the blockchain forever. So like, I mean, you can be very private with it, but you know, at the end of the day, it is something that, yeah, I mean, if we can track it, you know, if yeah.
Journey and I, he was on Crypto Night, guy. We use bots now to track wallets. Like what you can track big wallets and see where they move their money. And I'm playing very little with that, but me and Journey have had a little bit of success. But Journey's even had these little, you know, breadcrumbs sent to him from some of these guys. Journey's a little more into like talking to these influencers, and it's clear as day that a lot of these guys are just absolute pump and dumping. But, you know, he mentioning FTX was the darling of crypto, at least for alts, and it rug pulled. Celsius rug pulled, right? So it's like you're safe no matter where you go. But I feel like you can say you're safe with Bitcoin because Satoshi still hasn't touched his Genesis wallet.
So. True enough. All right, we got another question. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, guys. I just got to leave. My nephew, I think he's getting a little hungry. I'm hearing in the back, so we got to go find some dinner. But thank you very much, guys. Nice meeting you, Brandon.
All right. Take care, Tim Perry. All right.
And
there we go. I'll just I will remove you from the stage. There we go. All right. We got another question here from Paul. Paul is wanting to know about Coinbase. So apparently Coinbase is now available for Canadians. He wants to know if you have any experience with it. Especially, I think he said something about restricting which coins are available. That would be for you, Brandon, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. You know, I have bought on Coinbase before. I mean, it was kind of one of the bigger first exchanges. You know, to me, I would be wary with Coinbase. Like I mean, I don't think it's necessarily going to fail anytime soon because it's, you know, an SEC regulated company. So I think you do have that kind of insurance for it, but I would also be very cautious with it because Coinbase kind of makes their money on the fees, right? So if you kind of look at, I don't know how the buying situation is in Canada with other exchanges, but I know in the US, Coinbase basically has the highest fees of anybody else out there. And so, you know, once I kind of figured that out, I kind of quit using them. But yeah, I mean, my experience is like anytime there's a bull run up, Coinbase for some reason shuts down. So, and that seems to kind of be like a reoccurring meme. So I would be wary with Coinbase, especially if you're trying to trade back and forth, because it doesn't seem like they're always up and running, which to me raises a lot of red flags. And in this industry, I think when there's smoke, there's fire. So I would be very cautious with Coinbase. But they've been around for a while. They're one of the bigger players, SEC regulated. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. I wouldn't recommend Coinbase to really anybody, but they, like I said, they are one of the biggest players, and they do have high fees, and that's how they make their money. So take that with what you will, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, here's the other thing, Paul. I mean, Wealthsimple has a lot of coins now, and they seem to be adding them all the time. So they have quite a bit of diversity. Tim, what do you use?
I use ShakePay. I only buy BTC, DCA. I haven't bought any other coin in over a year. What I used was, I have had experience with CoinSquare, which was taken and assumed by WonderFi, which is Kevin O'Leary. I've used MetaMask, of course. I've got accounts on the other exchanges like Kraken and all this and that, but I don't use them. I'll be honest, I have no interest in meme coins. I'm the BTC guy. I've got enough ETH. I'm letting it ride. The XRP is whatever. As a matter of fact, we're looking at getting out of all of our coins, take the tax loss so that when the Ethereum hits, I can put that against the tax loss.
Okay.
So, and then dump more back into BTC, because that, as I say, that's our racehorse. So I don't use any exchanges. The only time I'll use an exchange is to cash out of all of these coins that I'm going on. So
now, are you still doing the whole ShakePay thing?
Shaking? No.
No.
The only time it shakes is when my phone drops. So yeah. But no, I'm still trying to use the Visa as much as I can, the ShakePay Visa. Grabbing those Satoshis as much as I can. So yeah, no, it's BTC or nothing for us right now.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's see. Boda is saying, I feel like the last alt season was greatly inflated by retailers spending free money provided by the government. Times are harder now and people have less cash. So that's kind of one of them interesting things. If you remember was it November 2001 that we had those all-time highs? Was that 2001? I think it was 2001. That was at the height of the pandemic. And I've always been saying that those all-time highs that Bitcoin had back then were greatly inflated by all of that extra money. What do you guys think about that? I mean, I also think the stock market too. Like the stock market, I think, had just so much money in it that then, of course, when we went into a bear market, a lot of that started pulling out. And as all the support stopped, a lot of that started drying up. Anyway, I'd like to hear your guys' opinion on that. We'll start with Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with that, right? I mean, there was a lot more, free money with like stimulus and everything like that at the end of the day. But there was also a lot of fake coins kind of being bought, right? There was a lot of failures in exchanges and things like that, which was kind of, I think, maybe potentially inflating some of the alts. Maybe like FTX was kind of pushing some of the other things, right? Like I know FTT was probably inflated in some of these other things, but I also think at the end of the day, it might have suppressed the Bitcoin price. So take with that with what you will, because I think like not all Bitcoin was being actually bought, right? So I mean, the SEC does have to regulate BlackRock and ARK and all these other guys buying Bitcoin for the spot ETF. Granted, I don't know how legitimate these forensic accountants at the SEC are to understand, to track basically the actual purchasing of Bitcoin, or how they're going through all that, whether it's Coinbase as a custodian or something else. But I think, Bitcoin was definitely suppressed. I don't know about, all the other altcoins, because I that's just kind of hard to, it's such a general, and like there's thousands of other coins. So it's kind of tough to say. I just think, Bitcoin in general, because, FTX, it was proven that they weren't purchasing any of that. They were holding mostly alts. So, and that was like, a multi-billion-dollar exchange that just kind of went poof, right? It went belly up. So, I'd watch out for Binance in this one too. I think like Binance is one that's ripe for potentially another scandal or something like that, right? I mean, Binance US already kind of had to be severely regulated, and I don't know if they're even like able to operate in the US anymore. And if that's the case, that's something to be really wary about. And so, I'd be very cautious, especially too. I believe they purchased Coin Market Cap. So the number one place where you can go and look at the data, and then they now are allegedly putting out all that data and offering a lot of these coins. So it's definitely a kind of a hairy market to get into. But I think, yeah, like long story short, I think Binance, or I think Bitcoin's price was suppressed a bit last market, or last cycle, excuse me.
Perfect. What do you think, Tim?
Well, I definitely think that there was a time in history when there was a lot of extra money floating around. People didn't know what to do with it, or they saw it and they liked to gamble, whether that's stocks, whether that's in casinos, or whether that's taking a stab at cryptocurrency, right? So, and I think that's where a lot of people got schooled, and I think it's something that it's unfortunate that it happened, but they didn't take heed of warnings of buyer beware. And I think there were a lot of influencers on YouTube taking advantage of it as well. There was one is it BitBoy? Ben from BitBoy.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Did that ever blow up? Right? And that got ugly and stuff like that. But and there's
Didn't he get
FTX and there's this and
arrested?
that. Apparently. Apparently.
Yeah, I think he had a video too of like, I don't know, it was like, I don't, not to get into this guy's personal life, but they had a video of like him like with his alleged I guess, I don't know,
Girlfriend.
mistress who he's cheating on his wife with while he's getting arrested. He had a lot of issues. Supposedly got back into drug addiction as well. And yeah, and then he was in a boxing fight too, just randomly. I don't know, man. He's kind of everywhere, but yeah, it's a wild west out there, to say the very least.
It is. It absolutely is.
Mhm.
And that's why, and people now they're stuck where a lot of people that money is gone, and some of them have got their feet in the fire where they got to repay it, so DCA, BTC.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of funny here that Paul says this about ShakePay. So, Brandon, ShakePay it's just kind of a Bitcoin on-ramp that if you shake it every day, it would give you a few Satoshis. And
Mhm.
then the more days in a row you did it, you'd get a little bit more. But the problem is every single shake was counting as an actual transaction. So when it comes to tax time, and I discovered this my first year, I was like, I got hundreds of these transactions that I've now got to enter into my taxes. It was just, I thought it was a little bit of a nightmare. Like I got Coinly, which is basically sort of a accounting type program for Bitcoin. I got them to do it, but I had to pay them a bunch because there were so many transactions. So I was just like, I don't know if it's really worth doing it. So I haven't been doing it myself for those free Satoshis. And that's why I saw what Paul said. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's kind of funny that way as well. So speaking of crypto taxes, how complicated are crypto taxes in the US? I'm kind of curious. I know in Canada, it's not that bad, but what's it like in the US?
I mean, it's simple capital gains, right? I mean, they're treated kind of similarly to stocks, so it kind of really depends on like, when you're buying and selling. So I guess it depends on like kind of what you're doing, right? So if you're buying and selling and trading, or if you're trading, it's a little bit more complex than if you're just buying and holding, right? Buying and holding,
Mhm.
if you held for, I think it's longer than a year, you don't. I think it's a year, I want to say, and then it's not technically short-term gains. It's more like long-term capital gains or something like that. Short-term capital gains, I think, are taxed, closer to, I think I want to say like 35-40%, where short-term capital gains, it really depends on your actual like tax bracket. So I think that's more closer to like 25%, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess it really just depends, right? I mean, we do have tax day here in the US in 5 days, I believe. So I just mailed in my tax return a couple days ago. So I pay a tax guy to do all that too. So, but usually, like, a lot of these services, like I use like Cash App, Strike in the US. Um, they're really good with that. Those things, and I don't think the U.S. is like. I mean, we just hired allegedly a bunch of IRS agents, but I filed an amended return for 2021 in June, and I still haven't seen that money back. So I still think they're understaffed or just don't really know what they're doing there. So it's probably the latter, but yeah, so I think it's not super complex. It's just kind of similar to stock trading, I guess.
Oh, wow. So Ken basically has come up with this. He says, if it wasn't for basically the spot Bitcoin ETFs, the price of Bitcoin would still be in the 30Ks. What do you think? I think it definitely helped big time. Like, that's a lot of inflow personally into the into their market cap. So I don't know if they'd be down in the 30s, but I definitely don't think they'd be challenging all-time highs without those spot Bitcoin ETFs. What do you think? We'll start with Brandon, then Tim.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with you. I don't think like it would be down in 30s. I think we were floating around the 40s, 45, maybe even touched 50 or something before the ETFs. And it was 11. It wasn't just 6. So, it's nearly double that number. So, I think, you can't discount how much money and inflows are going into Bitcoin. We've kind of highlighted that a couple times here already. I think at the end of the day, Bitcoin ETF, traditional finance, like nobody no other country like the US uses traditional finance in the way that we do, and where we just dump that millions and billions of dollars into the market every single day. And Bitcoin ETFs have become Wall Street's favorite asset, right? I mean, they've purchased upwards of like $10 billion worth of this spot ETF in a single day. So, it definitely has helped out the price for sure. It's great for number go up. But it's also something that they have a lot of control now, and they can cause a lot of volatility because they own a lot of that market cap for sure.
It was definitely a nice day to swing. That's for sure. I will say that. What do you think,
Wow.
Tim?
Yeah, I think I definitely think that the ETFs definitely brought legitimacy to the general public, and reassured them that this isn't just a flash in the pan. Because they follow what's going on, and they'll trust the big investment firms, or they'll trust what the government says or doesn't say. So I think it probably had a lot to play with, or a lot to do with the price. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Sammer's talking about Hong Kong getting set to approve some spot Bitcoin ETFs. What do you think? Is this going to be enough to move the needle a little bit? Is it worth getting excited over? Brandon?
I don't think any other country ETF is really anything to write home about. I mean, it's great. It's another product, but I mean, like I kind of highlighted before, it's the US is just the big bad wolf, right? I mean, we got a bunch of money here that's flowing into a lot of the markets. A lot of foreign investors invest in the US because they feel like it's the safe haven. So, I think at the end of the day, these other countries bringing an ETF product, sure, it's great, but I don't think it's going to be big enough news to really swing the Bitcoin market in one way or another. But hey, Candace, you're a swing trader, so maybe you tell me. Do you think will this be news that you're swing trading on, or what?
Not really. I look at this. Even when Canada, when we dropped all of our spot Bitcoin ETFs, it was like it did nothing to the market really. So yeah, the U.S. huge. I mean, the amount of money. I mean, it's the biggest market in the world. So I would compare this as like a drop compared to a tsunami. That's kind of the way I would look at it. So I don't think it's going to cause any big waves at all, but it's still exciting to see more adoption. Even in Hong Kong, for example. What do you think, Tim?
I don't have much to say other than the fact it just sort of goes to say that it's just starting to show a global adoption, and that's in itself is setting the I think the base for what's to come. So that's about. Will it? I don't think another country doing anything, adopting ETFs are going to do anything. I think it's whatever the U.S. does is what sort of the world looks at, and what we kind of determine what's going to do or not do. So as I say, it just supports adoption. That's all.
Now, have you dusted off your Bitcoin 100K hat?
Funny you should say that. What was the highest it got to in US?
Oh, I thought it was up around, wasn't it? I thought it was high 73s, wasn't it?
So what does that translate into Canadian dollars?
Okay. All right. Sure.
So if we're talking US, it hit 100,000. If we're talking Canadian dollars, it hit the $100,000 mark US or Canadian.
What is that? 100,000 loonies or toonies?
Well, it depends on what political party we're talking about.
But I mean, here's the funny thing. Even as a Canadian, anytime somebody tries to quote to me the price of Bitcoin in Canadian dollars, I look at them like a deer in a headlight. Like, what? What are you talking about? What?
Yeah, it's like metric and imperial. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, Bitcoin, it's pegged to the U.S. It makes sense to talk about it in the U.S. That's the way I look at it.
It was the worst thing you could have done to me in grade school was to go from imperial over to metric up here in Canada. It's talking about, weekend at Bernie's. What the hell are you doing to me,
No, and I mean, I think that just kind of highlights the point we were talking about a little bit earlier. It's like everybody still kind of looks at the dollar as the king, right? I mean, we're still like, no matter where you are, everybody kind of looks at the US price. It's hit over 100K in multiple currencies already. So, but nobody's going to really start jumping for joy on that 100K number until it hits 100K in the US dollars, right? So, but yeah.
It's interesting you say that, because whenever sometimes I have a discussion with people and we're quoting prices in stocks or stuff, and someone will go, well, now that's in US dollars, or the question is that in US dollars? So it always comes roundabout back to US currency. So it's already up here, and I don't think we're ever going to get rid of that.
Well, also with pounds. I mean, who weighs anything in kilograms?
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about like pounds, like English or British pounds, like that.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I was just over in London for a little bit, and like they were saying everything was in pounds, but I just kind of like, I don't know, personally, I just was like, oh, this is in dollars. And then I came to find out that it's like 1 pound is like $1.25. So I was like, oh shit, this is a lot more expensive than I was anticipating.
Yeah. Now, Ken is asking, what do you think is going to happen in that first month after the halving? Are we going to have a sell-off? Are we going to see the price drop a little bit from miners? Start with you, Brandon.
For what I guess I don't really know if I understand the question. What do you mean the price dump from miners? Do you mean like the miners selling off and like the overall Bitcoin asset, or like?
Yeah, I think he's sort of saying like they throw in the towel, like, it's not worth it. They cut my reward in half.
Yeah. So I mean, I think like if you're already mining at this point, like you know it's coming, right? So this was actually the first bear market where the hash rate increased throughout it. So I think that a bunch more miners are coming on. I think a lot of people are getting more innovative, and I think countries and other places are kind of figuring out ways to utilize excess energy to mine Bitcoin, right? I mean, like Canada is a prime example. You guys have a lot of, Bitfarms is a big company. You have a lot of publicly traded Bitcoin mining companies up there, and a lot of them use hydro, right? So they're getting power for extremely, extremely cheap. And, I think it's just kind of like a race to the bottom to find the most renewable energy sources. So I think, from that perspective, for me personally, I think miners shouldn't really hold on to Bitcoin, the asset, because, I kind of compare it to like gold miners, or even like, people that are working in oil as well, because they they want to kind of distance themselves from the volatility of the asset that they're mining. They want to just kind of continually make that profit. But in Bitcoin, it's a kind of different because we want the Bitcoin miners to hold Bitcoin because we want them to believe in the asset too. So I guess this is a roundabout way where I think like the miners aren't mining enough for it to really see a big dump because like I said before, there's less than 10% of the coins left to be mined. I think it's like around 8% when we hit the
Right.
halving.
I mean,
So
if you also look at the history of what tends to happen after a halving, it would almost make sense to hold on to it if you know Bitcoin is going to start to go parabolic or at least go up somewhat.
100%. Yeah. So, I mean, I think miners will kind of do that, but a lot of miners failed last bull market into the bear because they all got over leveraged. They started, borrowing against their depreciating Bitcoin miners. So, I mean, I think it'll be a little interesting this go around. I think a lot of Bitcoin miners, the ones that survived, understood, kind of the way that this Bitcoin asset works, the volatility and things like that. And I think we'll see potentially some get a little ambitious with this go around as well, but I think miners are a little bit more primed and ready for this bull market and then the subsequent bear following it as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. I know with miners, I used to swing HUT, and then they had a reverse split, and I was like, it just doubled their price, and I was like, takes it out of the range where I didn't want to put that much in to get the same reward back from them. So that was kind of fun. Now, Boda is saying that miners need 70K at the halving to be profitable. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
Yeah, I mean, that relies heavily on energy price, so it's kind of hard to say that. I mean, because they're extremely, the miners were like a lot of them were breaking even at like 20K. So, that would mean that 40K they would be breaking even and 70K they would be profitable. It just really depends on your energy price. Which is different globally. It's different from a person in the household compared to that's a person that's mining industrially. I mean, like the way I kind of see it, the mining industry going is that mining where you're just simply plugging into the wall and playing is never going to be really an end game. I think you guys are in Canada, right? You guys have very cold winters. I don't have to experience that here down in Florida, but you need heat, right? You need heat in your house at all times. Even here in Florida, I need a water heater, right? So the way I see it is, water heaters, heating your home in the winter time, that kind of thing can kind of be replaced with Bitcoin miners to help subsequent, probably the increased taxes that we have in homes. But the days of the personal miner just kind of plugging into the wall and just letting that machine run and run loud and hot and kind of continue to do that, I don't think that that's going to last any time having. And then the industrial players who are simply just plugging in and playing too, I don't think are going to continue to last. I think it's going to be the Bitcoin miners that are able to plug in the grid, that are kind of working with the governments and like local municipalities to help balance grids. I think it's going to be ones that are helping utilize renewable energy systems and kind of, also pairing with maybe some data centers. I think that's going to be the way of the future. And then utilizing that heat to, whether it's, I don't know, a greenhouse or something, there's going to be a lot more innovation when it comes to utilizing the heat from Bitcoin miners, that where the price of Bitcoin is not going to really matter because the energy was going to be lost anyway, right? I mean, we're already seeing that with flare gas, like Shell, for example. I don't know if you guys have Shell in Canada, but I'm sure everybody's heard of Shell, right? It's like the biggest oil company in the world, or one of them. They're the biggest sponsor at the Bitcoin conference in Nashville this year, which was usually the Bitcoin conference in Miami. They're not really marketing that much, but I mean, what does that tell you, right? I mean, some of the biggest oil companies in the world are getting into the Bitcoin mining industry, and I think that's just going to continue here as the years go on.
Oh, absolutely. Guys, get in your final questions. We're in the dying minutes, but it's been a fantastic so far. Let's before we get to any last questions, Brandon, tell us about your channel and tell us why these guys need to get over there and maybe throw you some eyeballs or some subscriptions?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, please hit that subscribe button. Come and join me over at the Green Candle channel. Yeah, I mean, I got a great podcast about an hour long every time. I bring you guys, great guests. Whether it's, I've had an NFL player, I had different athletes, I've had people, Bitcoin miners, macro economists. I bring them all, right? I try to give an overarching viewpoint of what's going on in the Bitcoin space. And sometimes we talk about the price as well and kind of bring on some traders and things like that. So, I kind of try to give the overarching view of what's going on in the Bitcoin space and the latest stuff. And I try to make it fun and digestible. So come on over and join me at the Green Candle. And Candace, yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. It was a blast. And yeah, I mean, well, I guess we'll have to do it again sometime. Huh?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Tim, what you got going on nowadays?
Me,
Yeah.
same old, living the dream.
Are you going to bring your channel back at all?
Don't know.
Okay, that's fair enough. That's fair enough.
Yeah, there's some things going on. So
fair enough. What about the TikTok? Are you still doing your TikTok driving stuff?
have you not been watching?
I've seen some. I've got not on TikTok per se. I usually see the ones that show up.
You know what? I can't believe that for such a platform as TikTok that is not American, but over, that I violated community guidelines.
Really?
On a TikTok, I violate, and you see the stuff that's on TikTok. I put in, what did I put in? Scam alert or something like that, because you can get those texts, click on this, and because your bank's overdrawn and stuff like that, right? So, I replied with something stupid and I put it up on TikTok, and I got my TikToks hit by community guidelines. So no, I've got lots of content, and I mean, Nancy's into the new job and stuff like that, so we're kind of energy is elsewhere right now. But it's not definitely dead, but I don't know what form it will come back in, whether it comes back in a Q&A or whether it comes back as a driving channel, or I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. If you later just give me your web address for TikTok, I'll throw it in the description. I've already got I got Brandon's YouTube in there.
Perfect. Everybody go to my channel, hit that subscriber button, help pump this thing up. I appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly.
Already done, brother. It's already done, brother.
Appreciate it, Tim. Appreciate it.
Perfect. All right. Anyway, guys, you got any last questions? We're done. We got about 7 minutes left. So if anybody has anything they're dying to ask, now's the time. Drop it in. We'll go from there. All right. Let's do prediction here. Brandon, we'll start with you. When is Bitcoin hitting 100K USD?
Oh, when? Oh, that's a good question. I went out at the beginning of this year, and I wrote an article for my prediction that it would be 100K by the end of the year. But I mean, I can't see how it's not going to happen earlier now. I mean, like, my birthday's in July and I'm turning 30. So, my back's starting to hurt a little bit. I need to start stretching out a little bit, but I think it's going to be 100K by end of July. I'm saying by the end of the summer, it's going to be a fun summer, and everybody's going to be pumping, ripping, and rolling. We'll be having a good time rolling into that Bitcoin conference down in Nashville. So, I'll be there. Hopefully you guys will be there, and we'll be celebrating, jumping for joy at 100K by then.
Well, we'll all just have to meet up in Nashville.
There we go.
Yeah.
Nash Vegas.
Tim, what do you think?
I kind of hope it stays low because I'm getting better value for my DCAing. Sorry, but I mean, this is you can't stop the evolution of what's going to happen with Bitcoin. So I am making money while the sun is shining right now, just doing that simple DCA. So I have no idea. And I really don't put a lot of emphasis on, it's going to hit this or that, because when it's low, I'm making money. I'm making money. So that's, it's going to go. I have no idea. Honestly, Candace, I have no idea because it's all going to depend on how we react to the halving and how, you know, heaven forbid elections turn out or what happens in the world or and those are all what ifs and unknowns. And will it get there? Oh hell yeah! But I'm not putting a date on it.
Well, here's what I'll put my date. I'm gonna go all US and say Independence Day, so July 4th.
There we go.
I'll even say it'll happen on July 4th. Now, if it does happen on July 4th, everybody in here, you remember I said July 4th.
There we go. I love it.
We'll have to see. Yeah, and it's funny, Paul. Tim actually had a challenge back on the days of his old channel where he was doing a DCA challenge, and I thought that was pretty darn cool. And maybe we'll do something like that here next year. I don't know. Right now, we currently have a TFSA challenge, so it's like basically we're just building from scratch, so everybody can watch it as we move along, which is kind of cool. Now, Paul also said, this is just kind of funny. The good old days of GPU mining has been gone for a while now since ETH switched from POW to staking. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny what really kind of I thought was weird is, do you remember the early days of the internet when you could basically use your GPU to help SETI analyze signals? Did you guys do that, or was I the only one nerdy enough to be doing this?
No, I didn't do any GPU mining. I haven't really gotten into the mining game. I do have an S9 sitting in my not that room, but in the guest room around the corner over here that I'm waiting to turn into my water heater. So I kind of already like told you guys what I'm trying to do here. So I have a guy that I was talking to, but he's charging a little bit too much to try to get that going. So I don't know. I mean, I got like I don't know. It's a complicated situation with my water heaters here, but I might get that going here soon.
Well, Paul made about 4,000 one year. That's not too bad.
There we go, Paul. Attaboy.
But yeah, no, the other thing that I was sort of mentioning, and this was really before crypto, SETI used to have all of this radio data, and it was basically, it would borrow some of your CPU. So when you weren't using your computer, you could be running this in the background to sort of analyze blocks of data just to see how that was going to go. So that used to be kind of funny. Oh, Jill just brought the kitten. The kitten's being a little bit of a kitten, as they tend to. But I found that pretty darn funny. All right. So everybody, thank you guys for all. First of all, thank the guests. You guys are all fantastic. Thank you for showing up. I really appreciate it. Otherwise, I would have been talking a lot in the last hour and a half. Everybody who showed up, thank you very much for coming in. Thank you for your questions. It was all fantastic. And of course, all of you who are watching this in the replay, because, you know, I know a ton of you do, a huge shout out to you guys too. You guys are all rocks. You guys are the superstars. We're just your guides to sort of help you, fine tune your superstarness. So until next time, everybody, take care. And, we'll do this again sometime. It was a lot of fun. Bye, everybody.